Hi, my name is Isaiah Phillips, and today I'm going to be answering question 1 and 2. Question 1 is saying to reflect on the key themes and concepts presented in Chapter 9. What insights did you gain about the structure and funding of K-12 education? Were there any aspects of the chapter that surprised or challenged your understanding of how schools are organized and financed? Chapter 9 provided valuable insight into the structure and funding of K through 12 education in the United States. One of the most important concepts I learned was how public schools are organized through federal, state, and local levels of government. While the federal government helps support education through specific programs and legislation, most funding comes from state and local governments. This helped me better understand why educational opportunities and resources can vary from one school district to another. I also gained a greater appreciation for the complexity of school funding. Before reading the chapter, I did not realize how heavily many districts rely on local property taxes to fund schools. This funding structure can create significant inequalities between districts, especially when communities have different property values and tax bases. The concept of educational equity stood out to me because it emphasizes providing resources based on student needs rather than distributing resources equally across all schools. Now for question 2, it is asking me to discuss the concept of equity in school funding. How do differences in funding sources, such as local properties, taxes versus states and federal contributions, affect educational opportunities for students? Do you think the current funding model is fair? Why or why not? Educational equity in school funding means ensuring that all students have access to the resources and opportunities they need to succeed, regardless of where they live or their socioeconomic background. Equity differs from equality because it recognizes that some schools and students require additional support to overcome barriers that may affect learning outcomes. One of the biggest challenges to equity in school funding is the reliance on local property taxes. Schools located in wealthier communities often receive more funding because higher property values generate greater tax revenue. As a result, these schools may have access to newer facilities, more advanced technology, and smaller class sizes, and a wider variety of academic and extracurricular programs. In contrast, schools in lower income communities may struggle with outdated resources, larger class sizes, and fewer educational opportunities. State and federal funding help reduce some of these disparities by providing additional resources to schools with greater needs. Programs such as Title I are specifically designed to support students from low-income families. However, these contributions often do not fully eliminate the funding gaps that exist between districts. In my opinion, the current funding model is not entirely fair because a student's educational opportunities should not depend heavily on the wealth of their community. While local funding allows communities to invest in their schools, it can also create significant inequalities. I believe states and the federal government should continue working to provide more equitable funding so that all students, regardless of their zip codes, have access to high quality education. Creating a more balanced funding system will help ensure that every student has an equal opportunity to learn, grow, and succeed.